And today women share. They talk to one another. There's a lot of community support. Um, it isn't considered bad to talk about your private life with your husband or your children. I think it's really about also maybe they. I'm really shooting in the dark here, actually, to be honest. But I think it might also be that they are realizing their own self-worth. And when that happens, then you want to feel supported and you want to be heard. And communities like meditation spaces and healing spaces are very supportive and very accepting. I remember once I was working with young people who were addicts, and something that came up was one of the nicest things for addicts is that they're so accepted in their spaces. You know, why they flock together is because they don't need to be anything other than who they are. I think it's the same in that sense of community, in a meditation space or in a yoga space. I could share my truth without worrying about being chastised or judged or talked about or yeah. Whereas I think at home there's still, you know, my husband might say, why do you feel that? Or somebody's, you know, it's just different, I think. So yeah, I think that women are finding a lot more of that sense of community. Yeah, which maybe they had earlier in community kitchens or in through a lot of religious ceremonies. You know, I don't know, maybe when they were preparing for events or whatever. We don't do all that sort of stuff. I have a family, a husband, 2 children. I have worked in education, theatre, and music all my life. Presently, I'm not employed anywhere, and I do some pro bono projects using my skill sets from the theatre, from all the workshops I've led over the years, but also a lot more from my own journey of healing. So I use what helped me so much with other young girls across the country post-COVID from marginalized, very marginalized communities, actually. So what was a huge limitation for me, because I'm such a visceral person and such a physical, I need to have like contact. I saw it at first as, oh my God, how am I going to survive not, you know, rehearsing in a room with other people, to I can now connect with 25, 30 young girls across the country from different parts of the country. So much more than me teaching them anything, there's this fantastic peer relationship, peer learning that's happening from girls from Jammu and Kashmir in Haryana or Rajasthan or UP or Assam or Arunachal, and that's fantastic. So that's what I do. That's what I've been doing for the past 1.5 years now, actually. It happened, COVID happened, the lockdown happened, and there was this sense of course, personal frustration, and then this awareness that there are people out there who have no food and who have no access to anything. And I was very troubled by, like so many other people, and we have this brilliant community in Gurgaon called the Gurgaon Nagrik Ekta Manch. Sadly, they're politicized now, but they have always come together when things have gone wrong. So, we just connected, and everyone said, let's get food packets together. So, like so many citizens across the country, we put together these packets of atta, chawal, masalas, sabun, tel, namak, etc. And then we divided ourselves into teams. The teams that took calls, the teams that verified, and the teams that distributed. So at first I was part of the distribution team. Then my mom came to stay in April 2020, and I stopped distributing. I started taking calls, and I set up a little mini office here, and there were other young people who volunteered to work with us, and we were taking calls from morning to night, SOS calls. And so the calls ranged from, of course, food, medicines, somebody who's expecting a baby, needed to be hospitalized, needed to get somewhere. So we would just try to help out through our incredibly supportive network. A friend came to me, not really a friend actually, she was a friend's friend. She used to teach my son Imad in school, and oh yeah, we were colleagues at Sri Ram. What am I saying? I was teaching with her, and she called me to say, remember your theatre workshops, and I want to set up a group, an online program for young girls who are not going to school because of COVID, around COVID awareness and menstrual hygiene. So I said, well, I'm really interested not so much in either of the two, but I'm very interested in isolation and how one can create connections. So I'm happy to work on that with you. And then the team grew. I brought on somebody else who's a brilliant, brilliant person. And she used to be with Impact India. And she came on, and then we just grew a little bit. And then we started these programs for young girls. We designed a program for young girls across the country where we gave them basically sessions ranging from emotional well-being to leadership, to nutrition, to self-expression through poetry and art and music and communication, and legal rights and mindfulness practice. And so many things just like became this lovely little module that we created with so much love. And so we joined up with on-ground NGOs across the country to get us the girls. Then we had a screening process, and we would put together a cohort of about 30 girls and meet them on a daily basis. We got them all a smartphone, and we sent the smartphones to them through the on-ground NGOs. And then we would meet them we had different trainers who joined us, who were giving their time. So for legal rights, or for nutrition, or for personal finance, or for me for creating a space for sharing and emotional well-being, as well as for self-expression. And we started these, and now we've been through 5 cohorts. And we also have one advanced group of girls who have been through this circle, and now each group was 3 months long. And then some of them wanted to go deeper and explore personal goals and personal areas of difficulty that they wanted to work through on a deeper level. And so, that's how it started. So I think Biodiversity Park is the nicest thing about Gurgaon for me, because I can just see trees, and I can be in nature, I can hear birds, their dogs. I just love it. I just feel like I suddenly breathe in there, even though it's the same air, but it's a part of Gurgaon I love. And there are lots more parks now, thanks to I Am Gurgaon. I think this condominium has been very joyful, because it's a very supportive, very loving, at least the friends that we have. It's been a very sort of like during COVID, if there was a household that had COVID, we just had to put it on a group, and we'd get all our meals. We were sending food to everybody. So that sense of belonging is something I love in this condominium. Everybody says, oh, this is only Beverly Park 2. It's not like that in wherever they live or whatever. But I don't know, we seem to have created it, and we're the same people. It's not like there's some different species of human beings here. So I just think that a couple of good people said, this is what matters, let's come together. And the metro is something that really changed my life in Gurgaon and in Delhi. I mean, I don't think there's a difference really, but the metro was, I suddenly felt connected when the metro came. I'm just not the kind of person to be getting in and out of a car. I drive myself, but I love being in public transport. I don't really not like anything, because I think I've learned to stay away from the things that trouble me. I don't engage with it, The absence of that connect with nature, pollution, traffic. I don't think that's Gurgaon, but I think that's a huge problem. Sometimes I just feel that living in a city, one focuses on such unimportant things. Like, I also think there's a divisive energy now that I hear. So that's why I said I don't want to discuss politics, because I don't think it's politics anymore. I think it's personal. And I think that it's so easy not to like people when you hear their views. And it's not like I'm not dogmatic or I don't have strong views. I do, but I'm learning to let go of views too, So I think that's the part I don't like about... So I keep saying North India because I was born in Bombay and I have this romantic relationship with Bombay and Madras, because where I grew up. But a lot of my friends tell me that that's not correct, because even Bombay and Madras have the same divisive energies and people talk like this nowadays. And yeah. So basically, Thich Nhat Hanh is very sort of... He talks about engaged Buddhism. So it's not about Buddhism by sitting quietly in a corner and meditating. His Buddhism is about being very much in the world. So whether it's the telephone, he has like telephone meditation, he has hugging meditation, he has beginning a new practice, lots of practices, walking meditation. So it's about being peace. It's about being in your life, being very present in your life. And so we have a Sangha, and the Sanghas are divided locality-wise. So we have a Gurgaon Sangha, Noida Sangha, North Delhi, Central Delhi Sangha, etc. But now, of course, it's all on Zoom. So one of the practices that he teaches is a practice called deep listening. So it's, as the name suggests, about listening deeply.
To other people.
To other people. To yourself, of course. And not offering solutions, advice, which is also what Shadow to Gold was. A lot of it was not about fixing anybody else or about advising or anything of that sort. It was just about being able to be with whatever was coming up, whatever was there, and being present to it. So that's what I'm saying. So whether all this stopped existing for me in separate pockets. It all became one flow. Actually, my first experience of it was in 2008, I think, when Thich Nhat Hanh came to India.
Sorry, who?
Thich Nhat Hanh. Thich Nhat Hanh is a Vietnamese Buddhist monk who set up a practice community in Plum Village in France when he was exiled from Vietnam for protesting against the war. He recently died, in fact, in Vietnam. So he came to India and did a retreat here at Teen Murti House. And I attended the retreat because a friend was very actively involved and said, come, come, come. And I was like, okay, come, I'll come. It resonated very deeply with me. I loved him, his gentle, loving energy, and his ability to connect with little children. My daughter was in 2008. How old was she? She's now 28. So we're in 2022. She was that many years younger, and I must have been going through some teenage angst with her or whatever. So I was very keen that she come and meet him too, and I must have put some emotional pressure on her because that was my style. And she came very resentfully. I remember very vividly, and she just kind of stomped about and met him and said, yeah, he's nice. And she left quite soon after. But I remember I was quite moved by him. And I started practicing with the Sangha here, but I was never actively involved. And I lost my father 6 years ago. And I think that was when I realized I had a lot of work to do, and with myself. And I did a workshop called Shadow to Gold with the person who started it, who runs it, a German person who was doing workshops in India at the time. And I can't remember how I came upon oh yeah, I came upon it through a fellow therapist who I had worked with in doing theatre and education sessions for young children. So we'd collaborated with 4 kids. And she recommended this session to me. I used to often go to her for support. And I did this session, and it was quite life-changing for me. And then I started practicing more regularly.
Changing in what way?
It was life-changing because I saw that I was quite wounded inside, and I didn't know it. And a lot of my personal afflictions in my relationships of feeling disconnected, unfulfilled, resentful, were really reflective of something in me that had not healed, and I just didn't know that. So, so I did this workshop in 2000. My gosh, I'm really suddenly blanking out with dates, but maybe a few years ago. And then I also, my practice became more regular. And so initially it was 3 isolated things in my life: shadow to gold, my Sangha, and I started seeing a therapist after this personal wound showed up in shadow to gold. And I kind of committed. I don't know, I remember I said something to my therapist when I first met her. I said, she asked me, why are you here? And I said, I want to see all my shit, everything. I don't want to leave any bit of shit unsmelt, unfelt, unseen by me. I just want to dive right in. I'm done with, it was like I wanted to look in the mirror, really good and hard. My therapist had this rule that if you don't show up, I will still charge you. If you're not in a private space, I will not entertain a call with you. Because it was on Zoom a lot through COVID. And I was like so righteous about it. My money, my time. But her rule was very clear. And today I see how much of that was me. Just that's my way. I mean, that was my way to be righteous, to be defensive. And I see a lot of that having shifted. I see today a lot less separate spaces in my life, a lot more flow. Everything seems to be flowing, and I'm flowing a lot more with a lot more acceptance of myself and everybody else in my life who earlier it was hard to be accepting of. And my Sangha is a large part of my life today. My practice, my sharing with them, my deep listening with them, my meditation practices, my music. Everything seems to be part of one large universe, in a sense. So I think it might be multiple things, and I'm really speculating here. I think one is that our parents' generation really didn't talk much about trauma or healing or therefore healing practices. And I think part of that is because they naturally had a lot of therapy in their lives because, they dirtied their hands a lot. Like my mom, she was a painter. She would garden. She would cook. So, when you're dirtying your hands, you're working with your hands, it's very healing. It's very therapeutic. I think our generation somewhere lost that a lot. Urbanization, more educated, more empowered women meant corporate jobs or other kinds of jobs or whatever, where there was less of that natural therapy, so to speak. The other reason I feel is that women are becoming, empowerment brings with it awareness. I mean, if I'm empowered, I'm more aware. So I'm not willing to accept the old order of, being subjugated or being subservient. women want to find their own voice. Women want to express themselves, and a large part of expressing yourself is about healing. I mean, of course, the voice will gunjo much more if there's a clear channel for it to gunjo through. Well, I'd love to create a community of, and it doesn't need to be women or only, it could be anybody, any gender, of just more and more and more people coming together to focus on the real issues, to focus on the environment, to focus on cleaner air, to focus on the fact that we need to breathe, we need to save this home that we share, other than so much divisive stuff that happens, So I really admire people who just do that, and I find myself gravitating towards that.